Okay, write a program using pseudocode that reads data from a text file called month.txt. So this is the name of the file, and we are supposed to read data from this, and we are supposed to load that data into an array. Okay, assume that the month.txt file only has the name of 12 months. So there are only the name of 12 months inside our file, such that each name is stored separately in a single line. So this is what he's saying. So we're going to have a file, right, month.txt, and within this file we're going to have Jan, Feb, March, April, May, all the way up till December. So all the 12 months, such that each month is on a separate line, and we're supposed to load this into an array, right? So this array that we're going to set up should have 12 boxes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12, such that we're going to have January here, February here, March here, all the way down till December, right? So one line has one element in the array, right? And this December, right here. So this is our array. So this is the basic question, and we're supposed to solve this in pseudocode. Now that we've understood our question, I suppose there's only one key concept here, right? And the key concept is that we have 12 lines that are going to be read from within our file. So we are going to open our file, right? And then we have to read 12 lines. For that we need a loop, right? So we need a loop to read our 12 lines. Now this loop can be implemented in two ways. We can use something like for I is equal to 1 to 12, and for, right? So that's one loop that we can use. And the other way to implement this loop would be while not end of file, right, with our file name right here, month.txt, right, while not end of file, and while. So basically these are the two ways that in which we can run our loop. Within this loop we are going to use the read file function and assign value to our array, right? And within this loop also we can use the read file function to read a line, and then in the next instruction within this loop we can assign value read to an array. And we are going to do this here also, right? So we have to assign the value that we just read to an array. And finally we've opened the file, we've run our loop, and finally we're going to close the file. So that's going to be the basic solution for our problem. So this is solution number 1, and as you can see we have declared an array, right? And this is the name of our array, or you can say this is the identifier of our array, right? So this is the identifier of our array, and this is the lower bound of this array. So the starting element is element number 1, and this is the upper bound of the array. So the final or the last element is element number 12, and therefore 12 is our upper bound. Once we declared the array, we use the open file instruction to open our file month.txt, and we've opened this file in the read mode. We've chosen the for loop because we knew that we only had 12 lines inside our file, so we're going to run this loop 12 times. Each time this loop runs, we are going to read a single line from our file using the read file instruction, and the single line that we are going to read is going to be stored in this temp variable, and then in the next instruction we are saving this value inside temp into the array. And this I here, this I is being used as the array subscript, and we know as the loop runs, the value of I is going to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 all the way up till 12. So each time when this instruction executes, we are effectively going to have something like this. So this loop runs the first time, our instruction effectively becomes month array 1 equals temp. So this is when the loop runs the first time. The loop runs the second time, I becomes 2, so this is going to be 2. So this time the value of temp is going to be saved in the second element of the array. So the loop runs the third time, the value of I becomes 3. So the value of I becomes, so loop runs the third time, the value of I becomes 3. Right? Loop runs the fourth time, this value becomes 4. So each time the loop runs, this value of temp is going to be saved in the element of the array pointed to by the value of I. Right? I hope you understand this. I'll be posting another video on how to work with arrays, so hopefully if you don't understand this concept, it will become clear to you in a later video. Finally, once you've entered all the values, once this loop runs and it runs to completion, then the final instruction closes the file, and that is solution number 1. This is solution number 2, and the only difference here is that we have used the while loop, right? We've used the while loop here. So this while loop will keep running till we reach the end of the file, and secondly, we have used I as an integer, and this I is given an initial value of 1. We are going to be using this I, right? We're using this I here, right, as an array subscript. So we make sure that once we have used this I as an array subscript, we increment it by 1, and then the loop runs the next time. So the first time the loop runs, the value of I is 1. The next time the loop runs, the value of I is 2. And if this loop runs 12 times, the value of I will go from 1 to 12. So effectively this is the same solution. We have just used a different loop in this case. Okay, let's solve this problem, which says that we are supposed to write a program code. Well, let's write the program code in pseudocode. So we're supposed to write a program code in pseudocode in which data is going to be copied from one text file into another text file. So assume the name of the original text file to be file1.txt. So basically we have a file called file1.txt, and there are several entries inside this file, right? So there are several lines inside this file. So this is our original file, and then we want to copy all the data from within this file into a new file, and the name of the new file as per our question is going to be copied file.txt. So this is the file into which all the data is going to be copied. So this new file is going to be created, and then all the data is going to be saved into this file. So let's take a look at what the solution for this problem is. Alright, so this is our solution, and it's a very straightforward solution. See, we have two files, so we are going to open both files. The first file is the original file that we had, file1.txt. So this was the file from which we were going to read our data, right? So we've opened it in our read mode. But the second file was the file that we were going to create and then write data into that file. So we've used the write mode. The write mode creates a new file and saves data into that new file. So we are now going to be able to write data into this file. So we have opened both the files and now we can do our processing. Obviously we are going to keep reading until we reach the end of file 1. So we are going to keep reading lines from file 1 and then we are going to copy those lines into file 2. But how long are we going to keep reading? Until file 1 ends, because we have to copy all of the file 1. So our while loop, the condition, the end of the file function is working on file 1, right? So this end of the file function is based on file 1. So as long as we have not reached the end of file for file 1, we are going to keep reading our lines, and then once we have read the line, we are going to use the write file instruction to write our line into this new file, copied file.txt. So thing to note here is, when we were using the read file instructions, we were reading from file 1, and when we were writing into the copied file, right? So I hope this solution is straightforward and that you are able to understand. So this is our loop. Once this loop runs, once we've done all the processing, we are going to close both the files. So we've closed file 1 and we've also closed copied file.